All right, let's see. Sorry about that, brothers and sisters. Uh, slipping a button some kind of way. Um, these updates. Um, Let everybody know I had an update came on the computer and it just kicked me out. So I don't know if I just want to see if I'm live. I think it putting me back in on the live mode. Let's see. Okay. I don't know if. Yeah, I think I'm on the live mode now. Back to the live mode. A little bit on the chilly side this morning. So if you're tuning in now, you're seeing the stream update, the introduction, and all of that on the other channel. Technical stuff sometimes can be frustrating. So let everybody know we're back on. The system updated and it kicked me out. But I'm just going to talk. I know people can kind of come back. So prayerfully, you guys had a good week this Shabbat. I mean, this week was the Day of Atonement. And prayerfully, many of you got an opportunity to reflect on the year. It's kind of like what the Day of Atonement is about is a reflection time. You got the beginning of the year, which is a reflection time, getting the leaven out, and the end of the year, which starts with the memorial of trumpets, and then Day of Atonement, which is the time when we afflict ourselves, visit ourselves, not from a religious dynamic, because a lot of people embrace this from a religious dynamic. It's more of a check yourself mindset. We basically check ourselves to see if we are operating as the Most High ordained us to operate. Let me try something here real quick. I want to see, am I going to be able to do this? Okay, I think I can do that. All right, let's try that there. Okay. There we go. And now I'm kind of centered now on the screen. I just wanted to center myself here. Okay. Yeah, so what I was saying was we had the stream went out. The computer did an update and so much technology. So preferably, like I said, you all had a good week. Day of Atonement was time of reflection. I did my 70 hours this week. Last evening I turned in early, so I got actually full night's rest. So today's lesson was prompted by this most recent rapture prophecy, right? People, we talked about it last Shabbat, and it doubled down and switched the date. Now the rapture is supposed to be the 7th. It amazes me how that people follow that as if you can get if the rapture, first off, rapture is unbiblical. Nobody's being raptured. Okay. It's it's the gathering of the saints, right? So even at that, if the rapture, right, was on a set date, people could do like you do a flight, right? You can get your reservations, So I want to fly first class. I kid you not. I mean, think about it. You get your hotel reservation. It's kind of like picking the rapture as a set date, from Christian dynamic. It's like I said, you're gonna stay at a 5-star hotel. So you want to get the corner suite. So I'm gonna put my reservation in early so I can get the corner suite, right? I'm gonna be raptured up into heaven, so I want to make sure I get the VIP section. So I'm putting my reservation in early. That's by how silly that sounds. But you got people that believe that and they double down. And as we shared last Shabbat, I mean, it's funny. He said Jesus. This is so funny to me, really. Somebody asked me, why are you paying attention to that? It's not that I'm paying attention to it. It's that I got loved ones and family members and friends that believe that nonsense. And if we don't speak to it, first off, people, I can't help but laugh because it's funny. We don't like to endure tough times. They say when the going gets tough, the tough get going. See, that whole rapture mentality is that, oh, I don't have to deal with all of this pain and suffering, right? I'm going to be taken out away from this wicked world. And it was a minister in my dad's church used to say, "Goodbye, world, I'm going." I mean, we're not taught to endure nothing, right? Persecution come, tribulation come, Oh man, something come, it's hard to do. Well, I can't do that, man. Wowsy woo woo, we be like bad luck slap rock. Wowsy woo woo, I'll never make it. Oh, we're not gonna make it. You have to keep your mind, right? See, when we focus on life, and we gotta see. If I wasn't a teacher of the biblical truth, I'd be a motivational speaker, because you have to have a positive focus, right? You can't see the glass half empty. You gotta see it half full. You ain't gonna make no money. You look, oh, that's a lot to do. Man, you gotta drive all those hours. Man, you know what? You'll never be nothing in life as long as you think like that. You gotta look at stuff and see there's nothing that I can't do. That's the way you gotta think. Even when people pull you down and tell you, man, you can't do that, man. Man, you're a senior citizen age, man. You know what? I can do it all. I might have to hop a little bit with the arthritis, but I can do it. That's the real deal. You got to encourage yourself. You can't be out there, this rapture mentality is that, oh, I can't. It's just so much oppression. I mean, even at some Hebrew Israelite camps, we're so busy focusing on what the Gentiles is doing that we ain't doing. I mean, we in captivity for sure. But the Most High said that even in the captivity, we can have lessons, right? Now, right? Yahshua didn't say, stop looking at the clock, saying, oh, is he coming this year? Yahshua said, occupy, right? So, why are we looking at the clock? Is he coming this year? That's the thing, right? So the rapture kind of prompted me to do this particular sharing we're going to do today. And the title is European Influence in Black Christians or African Religions, right? Has it influence, right? What, and this is painful, brothers and sisters, to my family, loved ones, my Christian friends. I'm gonna say something's going on. If you're offended by truth and the historical dynamic of Christianity, you might not want to watch this video because this might make you mad as hell. But if you're interested in knowing the truth and you want to know why, Christianity I'm gonna open up by making a statement. Christianity has influenced African spirituality, and that comes under many labels. The African spirituality comes under the labels of Hebrewism, okay, or Hebrew Israelite. It comes under the labels of definitely Black Christians, you know. It comes under the label of even in some Islamic thought processes. Definitely comes under the religions of the African spirituality. Sister Vicky Dillard, talk black to me. It's all Europeans have influenced religion, period. And so if you're offended by that, we're going to show you some stuff, right? We're going to read. What I want to do is I want to open up. So let me say this here first. Christianity, right, has influenced the thought process of the Hebrews, the people of the book. We for the most part, and this is a hard pill to swallow, but the concepts of our covenant have been tainted. Using what's the brother name? What's his name? Unedited truth. He always says they're tainted. The belief of the Israelites have been tainted by Eurocentric Christianity. That's a big boom. I keep seeing Lion Pride saying the pardon. You throw me off. Are you going somewhere? Help me out here, brother. Brother Doogie Dollars. Oh yeah, he said the pastor Joshua said that Jesus had long hair. Okay, the color does matter. Yeah, to him it does. Shabbat shalom to you, my brother. True Yehuda. Shabbat shalom to you. You true Yehuda. Let's see who else. Let everybody know. We're back on the original stream. We got kicked out. Okay. The parts. Greetings. Oh, greetings. Okay. All right. I guess. Okay. Oh, it's automatic generated. I don't know. let me go where I was going. Okay. So we've been tainted by Eurocentric Christianity, even the name, right? And this is a hard pill to swallow. People still calling on Jesus, Hebrew Israelites. Do you not know that Jesus was Latin? Right? The first influence, Jesus was influenced by the Greeks. We're going to show you that in a second. Then we're going to read some extracurricular books. So what I want to do is I want to open up real quick, and we're going to open up my eSword. Where is it at? Right here. And we're gonna read. We read this before, but we want to show you first and foremost, right? I like some stuff that Unedited Truth talks about the Greek influence of Christianity. He's right. He's right on the market. He's right on the money with that, right? See, the thing is that black Christians and black Hebrew Israelites that basically are Hebrew Christians don't get it. Don't get it. You don't get the fact that Jesus is a Latin version of the Greek Jesus. We're going to show that to you, right? We showed it to you in a previous lesson, but that's the reason why you run into people. You got the lords and the gods and the Jesus and all that. All they came from the Greeks, right? The Israelites never called the Messiah Jesus, and they didn't call the Most High Lord and God. It was Maury Josiah. He always get that having nations change their God. Them nations didn't change their deity, brothers and sisters. They imposed the Eurocentric version of the Hebraic covenant. They took our covenant, they put their spin on it, they Eurocentric Hellenized it, and then they say, here, this is what we want y'all to believe. And we fell for hook, line, and sinker. That's why we got Jesus on the brow. We can't get rid of the name Jesus. Jesus is a stronghold, you know. Christianity is a stronghold, right? We can't let go of that because Christianity have indoctrinated us with strongholds, brothers and sisters. We can't see it. Even the way we pray, it's been tainted by Christianity, by Eurocentric Christianity. Am I right? But see, we can't see. We've been so that stronghold has been put on us so strong that we can't even see that it is a stronghold. That's bad. When you can be so devastated by something that was imposed on you that you can't see that it is a stronghold, right? So let's start with I don't do a whole lot of talking because I can say stuff and people say, well, what's your references? I'm going to give you a reference, right? So I want y'all to tell all the Christian Hebrews that's on today. I want you to tell them to tune in because we're going to make them mad today. We're going to educate them. They're going to learn today. You're going to learn today. And we're going to educate that Eurocentric Christianity, right? With the Christ, all of that, Jesus Christ, that's all Greek mythology. Right? That was imposed on us by the people who hijacked the faith or the belief of the Hebrews, right? So we're going to go to, if you have your e-sword, or if you have in your possession, I don't have it on the side here, the King James, 1611 King James, right? I can go all the way back. Because the brothers mentioned, what's his name, Alan Parr mentioned that nobody has an ancient King James. I got one. I got it digitized. I don't have a hard copy. You probably, if you had a hard copy of that, it probably would cost you probably about $10,000-$15,000. But because archives.org and Google Books have digitized some stuff, you have access to it, right? So in the original King James version, I'm going to read from the digitized version of e-sword, right? So let's start with this. So if you have King James 1611 edition, you'll be able to find the book called the Maccabees, right? The reason why in Christian theology, the reason why Maccabees was taken out, I'm going to tell you why, right? to hide the connection of the Greek influence, aka Hellenized spirituality, because the Greeks were a melanated Eurocentric people. They were lighter hued, but they were Eurocentric. When they came into power, we're going to show it to you. So let's go straight into the book here. All right. So Maccabees, first chapter. Let me see if I can blow this up here since I'm in the King James Plus version. Let's do Bible, Lord. And there we go. All right. So starting at first Maccabees 1:1. It happened after that Alexander, the son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, right? So Philip of Macedonia had a son who was of the seed of Japheth, the specific son, Yavan, right? Which is where Chittim came from. Chittim, according to the book of Jasher, I forget what chapter that is, but it says that the Romans, right? So I can give you the reference if you need the reference. Matter of fact, let me see if I can do that real quick. I think I have Jubilees. And is Jubilees in this book here? I do know. No, it's not in the 1611, but it's in the Brenton, not Brenton's, the Sefer. I have the Sefer version on here. Let me see. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, I'm doing something wrong here. Let's see. Hold on a second. Help me out here, y'all. Okay, so let's see. Let's look at. Okay, so it's not in the digital version of the Sefer. How about that? Okay, let me see. Hold on a second. Let's try this one here. Let's try this one. I got two Sefers, two digitized Sefers, right? It's not in that one either. Wait a minute. Something's wrong here. Something's wrong with this picture. Okay, all right. I might have to pull out my digitized copy of the Jubilee. Somebody, I tell you what, to save time, somebody posted. Y'all know where in the book of Jasher, where it talks about the Romans, how that the Romans, to Chittim was the Romans, right? Okay, let me see. Let's go back in here to first Maccabees. All right, 1. Okay. Okay. If anybody need me to give you a reference, I'll give it to you. But let me just keep moving because I don't want to. So back to first Maccabees 1. Alexander, son of Philip, Macedonian, came to the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius, king of Persians, right? Darius, the king of Persians and Medes, right? Now, historically, that's where the Eurocentric people came. We're going to read that in this book that I have, I think we're going to share later on in this lesson. That the Persians came in, and they were the first ones to come into Africa, right? And intermingle with the Hamitic people. That's where you get your lighter complected Africans, right? What they call North Africans, we call Berbers and stuff. Derogatory terminology is they call Berbers, right? But they were people who end up intermingling with the seed of Japheth, right? That's in the prophecy. The seed of men and the seed of beast shall mix, right? But let's get back in here. So he has smitten Darius, king of Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead and first over Greece, right? And made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth. Now, We did in a previous lesson. We showed you how that who was in Greece before the sons of Yavan or the sons of Yavan, the Greeks, the Chittim was there. Okay. We do know for a fact, and we're going to read some of that in this other reference I'm going to give you today, that the Phoenicians, Canaanites, Edomites were one people, right? Eritrea, right? Red, right? They ended up traveling the globe, populating the place. They came to North America, populated parts of North America and South America. The Phoenicians traveled the globe, right? So a lot of people, especially in the One West camps, in that 12 tribes chart, the ones that they call Israelites, they just might be Edomites, because we know Edom traveled the globe. The book that I shared that from was a book entitled The Chronology of Ancient Kingdoms, right? He talked about that in the book. Also, America being an accurate description, right? In those two books, they talk about that, how that the Phoenicians, the Edomites traveled the globe with ships and populated places of the world. So some of the natives, people in Native America, what they call natives here, are actually, in fact, Edomites. As a matter of fact, the author, R.B. Lewis, I think it's R.B. Lewis, of the book entitled The Light, I think it's called The Light. In the book, he stated that the Indians or natives in America were children of Esau. That's what he said. And that's the book that Nathaniel them always quote from, right? We shared that in the previous lesson, right? I'll give you references to that at the end. If anybody wants references to those, rather than rehashing the whole class. Okay, now, so back in. So they first reigned over Greece and made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth. So when the Greeks came in, the Greeks started fighting because Edomites had taken the globe. They was up in Europe and everything. Before the Europeans, before the Caucasians, the Caucasians came from the Caucasus Mountains. That's where they settled. Okay? They came down into the known world, right? So when the Caucasians, the ones that's ruling the world now, that the scriptures call the Gentiles, they were in the Dark Ages while the whole world was civilized, right? So what they did, they embraced the way. We're gonna show it to you. We're gonna show you that in the book that the people that Paul ministered to, called a Gentile, called Galatians, those are your European predecessors, the Galatians, right?
You're gonna learn today.
So let's go back in here. So, and they made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth. Now, people, the One West divisions want to make them be Esau. No. This is your fact. We're showing you right here. These are the people making many wars in the earth. Who are the people that's warring? That's taken over by colonizing. That's taken over by overthrowing, murder, by legislation. They passing laws, even in this land of the United States of America. They conquer by legislation. And now they're trying to merge. We're gonna do a lesson on that too. This new thing called white nationalism, which is encased in Christianity, right? Which is called what? Christian nationalism. We're gonna show you that they are doing nothing different than their forefathers did in Africa, and the colonization and the imposing of the Christianity on the African Edenic people. And people wrote about it. It was not just some angry black person that had a bad deal talking. These are European people telling the truth, right? We're going to read from Sir, what's his name? I will read it in a minute. Sir, what's the guy? Hold on a second. Now I hate when I say something and it skips my mind. But Sir, what's his name? Hold on a second. Sir Harry S. Johnston. That's Sir Harry S. Johnston, right? We're gonna read from him. But before we get there, let's go back to Maccabees, because I wanna open this up, because I want our Hebrew Israelites that's still holding on to Christos, Jesus, and all that. Say it's okay. It's just an English translation. You've been indoctrinated with Greek mythology and don't know it. You've been indoctrinated with it. It's so much into your bloodline that somebody that speaks against Jesus, he's speaking against Jesus. It's in your psyche. You can't get rid of it because you've been indoctrinated. We're going to show you how the indoctrination is so strong. Right? Maury Josiah teach on the name, and y'all go IOG. They love them some Jesus. Don't even know that they've been indoctrinated with Greek mythology. In a city near you. Okay, let's go back in. All right, so they went through the ends of the earth, took spoils of many nations, and so much that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. He gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. Watch this now. And after these things, he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable and men brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he yet was alive. So Alexander reigned 12 years and he died. So this wicked man, this wicked Gentile, only ruled for 12 years, but his indoctrination of Christianity is still alive today. Still alive today. Full and well. In full form. He did something that was unprecedented. Right? He made the Hebrews follow his religion. Christianity. Before Constantine got it. Alexander the Greek had it. Alexander the Greek didn't originate it. He got it from, guess where he got it from? The Hamites. The civilization of Kemet. Right? Alkebulan. Ifrica. Right? The land of Ham. So to all my Kemet Egyptologists, that even the name Egypt was given to you by the Greeks. All them names, they changed the names around. So the Greek influence is high and heavy and thick in the world. Lands were named, people was named, all of the biblical people was named after the Greeks, Hellenized variation of the Hebrew name. You can name them out. Peter, Paul, James, John. every biblical character, Joshua, Joseph, all those are Hellenized versions of the African and Hebrew people. But we've been indoctrinated in theological seminaries. We've been indoctrinated by the enslavers. We're going to show that to you in a minute. But let me get back here because I'm showing you where the spirit of it started, right? Okay, now. So he said, wherefore he called his servants such as were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. So Alexander reigned 12 years and he died. And his servants bore rule every one in his place. So they followed suit, right? After his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did the sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. Underline that right there. What was the evils multiplied in the earth? Right? Revelation gives you a hint. It says that Satan deceived the whole world. How did he deceive them? Through Christianity. Sun worship. That's what Christianity is. Sun worship. All the holidays wrapped around Christianity are based on sun worship. The solar deity. Sol Invictus. Your holidays coming up, Christmas and all that, New Year's is all based around the solar year. Christmas is not Yeshua's birthday, right? December 25th. That's what was imposed on you. You've been tricked. You've been bamboozled. You've been deceived by the world to believe that, if somebody doesn't believe in Jesus, right? Oh man, you in a cult because you've been indoctrinated by Greek mythology.
What you bringing to the table, brother?
All right. So the Greeks started that. Now, we came out of Egypt. They was worshiping Ra, Amun-Ra, the sun. Most High brought us out of that nonsense. Greeks came down. Alexander the Greek came down. He visited Kemet, Egypt, Mizraim, and he saw the religions there. What did he do? He put his Hellenized Eurocentric spin on it, and they gave it back to they tried to give it back to the Hebrews. Times of the Gentiles. Now, so back to Maccabees. Okay, so these clowns, that's what they were, imposed the religion of the Greeks, which was hijacked from the Egyptians, the Mizraimites, right? So, okay, it says now, and there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus. Okay, now why is that important? Why is Antiochus important? Right, we're gonna make the connection in a second. Matter of fact, I'm gonna do it right now. But after I say this here, there came out of them a wicked root, or root, as my friends in Chicago say, root. Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been a hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. Now, y'all not ready for me. Okay, let's go to Acts, right? Okay, and we're going to show you in Acts chapter 11. Let's go here, and we're going to look at verse 26. It says, now let's start right at verse 19. Now they which were scattered abroad upon the persecution that rose about Stephania traveled as far as Phoenicia and Cyprus and Antioch, preaching the word to none but the Yahudim only. Okay, these were the people of Israelite stock that they called them Yahudim or Yahudi, right? King James translators put Jew in there. Okay, all right. And some of them were men of Cyprus and Cyrene, which when they were come to Antioch, okay, there goes that Antioch. When they were to come to Antioch, Antiochus Epiphanes, right? So we're going to show you what Antiochus Epiphanes did. He threw on the Hebrews this Eurocentric version of the Egyptian Mizraimite religion of sun worship.
Am I right?
All right. Now they which were scattered abroad. Okay, so they were to come to Antioch, and he spoke to who? The Grecians. Oh, wonder why. So Maccabees took out the King James translator took out Maccabees, the ecumenical ecclesiastical church. The church fathers took out the book of Maccabees because they didn't want y'all to make the connection between the Greek deity, the Greek worship of the sun, and the new modern hijack Eurocentric Christianity. Boom. But you've been tricked. You've been deceived. You've been fooled. You've been bamboozled, run amok. And y'all don't know it. And it's in your spirit. The Greek influence of your spirituality is too real. You don't even really realize it's for real, right? Now, okay. So it says, they were come to Antioch, spoke unto the Grecians, the same people. You can go back to First Maccabees in a second. Preaching the Lord Jesus. Oh, how about that? How about that? I'm going to read this the way it is. They wasn't preaching Yahshua. Isn't Yahshua the same as Jesus? No, he's not. They want you to believe that. We're showing you he's not, right? Now, and the hand of the Lord was upon them with a great number believed and turned to the Lord. See that? So what did they do? They left the faith of the Hebrews and embraced Christianity. Watch this now. I'm making the connection. Y'all better call for your bishop to tell them you need some help, because this brother's exposing the Christian origin. All right, now.
What you bringing to the table,
Okay,
brother?
now. So he said what? And the hand of Yah was with them, and great number believed and turned to the Lord. Then tidings of these things came unto the ears of the church, which was in Jerusalem. So they formulated a church, right? And they sent from Barnabas that he should go as far as Antioch, right? Who, when he came and had seen the grace of God, I'm going to read this the way it is, because this had nothing to do with the faith of the Hebrews, was glad and exhorted them all with purpose and heart. They would cleave unto the Lord. That's why they got the Lord on the breath, because they still cleave to the Lord. For he was a good man and full of the Holy Ghost. He didn't have the Ruach of Yah, he had the Holy Ghost and of faith. And much people was added unto the Lord, right? Y'all got to see this thing, what it's saying. Then departed Barnabas and Tarsus for to seek Saul, right? And when he had found him, right, he brought him unto Antioch, right? What were they doing in Antioch? It came to pass the whole year they assembled themselves with the church. Now, that word in itself there, church, you got to research that, find out that goes back to Greek mythology. It goes back to the Greek Circe, the house of Circe, the house of the Jupiter. Hercules. Was it Hercules or Jupiter? Okay. We'll deal with that later on. But let me see. Hold on a second. All right. Where's my let's test what I'm just saying. Fact check it. Okay. Was the house of Circe connected with Zeus or Jupiter or Hercules? Okay. Zeus, the king of the Greeks. Okay, so Zeus or Circe. Circle's father was Helios, the Titan sun deity. Helios and Zeus were cousins, but Circe herself was a goddess of magic, not a Olympian like Zeus. Okay, all right. So Circe's father was Helios. Okay, that's a whole lot of stuff there with that Greek mythology. So we'll do a future lesson on Greek mythology. But anyway, let's get back. So that's where that terminology Circe came from. It was a Greek house of prayer. Okay, anyway. And they taught much people, right? And the disciples were called Christians first in Antioch. There it is. So what was their Christianity? All right, let's back up, right? Now go back to First Maccabees. We're going to connect it here. Okay. So verse 10 says what? That, and there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, right? That was the beginning of the Christian faith. Surnamed Epiphany, son of Antiochus the king, who had been a hostage at Rome. So we read that part. Okay, now, here's verse 11. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men. Imagine that, underline that. In those days went out of Israel wicked men. So why were they called wicked? We're going to show you why they were called wicked, right? It says, who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathens that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow, right? So what are they saying? We're going to become Christians. We're gonna break it down. To become a Christian, because what is the pillar of Christianity? The doctrine of the pillar of Christianity. You're not under the law, right? So we're going to show you the connection right here, right? All right, now. So in those days when out of Israel, wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen. So they said, let's make a covenant. In other words, let's become Christians, Christianized, that are round about us, for since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. So if this device pleased them well, then certain people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinance of the heathens. Look at that. So it said certain people were forward. Right? These were leaders of the Hebrew. That's why you got Hebrew Israelites that still, they embraced we are the Israelites identity, but still holding on with a bulldog grip to the doctrine of the Greeks. The Greeks have weights. And many of our Hebrew brothers and sisters that come into the knowledge of Israel, the Greek influence have so imposed itself on us as a people that we can't even see that we're connected to Greek thought in the Hebraic walk. We can't see it. We're blind. We can't see it because we've been indoctrinated to the core with Greek sun worship and their sun deity. We're going to show it to you right here. That's where it started. Right? Now, I know y'all didn't expect to hear this kind of a lesson, because y'all got some friends and they feelings is hurting now. This brother talking about my Jesus, my Christianity. You've been lied to. And I know it hurts. But let's go back to the book. So certain people who were forwarded hearing that they went to the king, who gave them a license to do after ordinance of the heathens, whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the custom of the heathens, right? So what are you saying, brother? When you go into the gym to work out, you know what the origin of that is? The Greeks. That's right. That's right. The Greeks. Okay. I know it hurts, right? The Greeks have influenced the world largely. And we don't see that. We've been influenced a stronghold of Greek influences in the world today. The Romans have embraced it, and the sons of Japheth, the Galatians, the Britons, the Irish, Netherlands, Dutch, we're going to show that. See, all of them embraced that because they were indoctrinated with the religion of the Greeks. That's why they go to the Greek New Testament. Because Christianity basically is Greek in origin. It's Greek, but in essence is Egyptian in origin, hijacked by the Greeks, repackaged under the label of Christianity. All right, now. So they built places for exercise in Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathens and made themselves uncircumcised, right? How did they make themselves uncircumcised? Uncircumcised in heart at this particular junction, right? For they forsook. They did what? They forsook the Kodesh covenant. What they do? They forsook. What does it mean to forsake? Forsook. To forsake. To turn away from. To turn a deaf ear to Yah's covenant. Oh, we're not under the law of Moses. We're saved by grace through faith. They forsook the covenant. Embraced the religion of the Greeks. We're going to show you later on the Romans put their Roman spin on it. The Romans had their part. The Romans had their part in it, but let me take my time. I got to set the stage so y'all can see. Y'all better call y'all bishops and pastors, tell them they better tune in. This brother is chopping up their Christianity. All right, now 1-5. Well, brother, Maccabees is not credited. That's why the church took it out. You've been deceived, brother. Why was it not inspired? Because it goes against the pillar of doctrine that Christianity stands on. That's why they took it out, because they said it's not inspired. But it was inspired enough to be in the King James 1611. It was inspired enough to be even in the Ethiopian Bible, okay? Which we show you, we're going to show you as we read in this reference I have, that they, Ethiopians, embraced the Greek Christianity.
What you bringing to the table, brother?
All right, now. So they made themselves uncircumcised and forsook the Kodesh covenant and joined themselves to the heathens and were sold to do mischief, right? So in other words, when you break the law that the Most High established, the Most High set the precedent, and you say, oh, we're not going to follow the Most High law. We're going to follow the heathens, the Greeks. We're going to call it Christianity. That's what y'all did. That's why it's so into your psyche. You can't get it out of your psyche. You've been indoctrinated. You've been infested with it. We're going to show you. All right, now. So, now when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, he thought to reign over Mizraim or Egypt, that he might have dominion of 2 realms. Wherefore he entered into Mizraim with a great multitude, with chariots, elephants, horsemen, and great navy, and made war against Ptolemy, king of Mizraim. But Ptolemy was afraid of him and fled, and many were wounded to death. Thus they got strong cities in the land of Mizraim, and he took the spoils thereof. How about that? So are we connecting the dots? Right? Because Kemet, Mizraim, was the Greek foundation of Greek mythology and Greek worship. Hercules and all that came from Kemet. In the book, I think it's Herodotus talks about that. Leo Africanus book talks about that. Hercules, right? Hercules wasn't a European person. Hercules, right, was an African deity. All right. So the Greeks went down in there. They changed, as it says, I think, what is that? First Esdras would say they sought to put, it's a Maccabees. They sought to put the images, right, and place their images, right? That's what they did. They, in other words, whitewashed it, or Hellenized it, or Eurocentricized it, so they can embrace it. All right, now. So verse 20, and after Antiochus had smitten Egypt, he returned again in 143rd year and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with the great multitude. And he entered proudly into the sanctuary, right? Took away the golden altar and the candlestick of light and all the vessels thereof and the table of showbread and the pouring vessels and the vials and the censers of gold and the veil and the crown and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off. He took also the silver and the gold and the precious vessels. Also he took the hidden treasures which he found, and when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre and spoken very proudly. Therefore there was a great mourning in Israel in every place where they were. Right? So that the princes and elders mourned, the virgins and young men were made feeble, and beauty of women was changed. Every bridegroom took up lamentation, and she that sat in the marriage chamber was in heaviness. Right? Now, so we're showing you the foundation of Christianity started with the Greeks. Borrowed or intercepted from Egypt, the sun. Okay. Now, what I want to show you is in this same Maccabees, and we're going to go further. And we're going to show you, we're going to make the connection. We made this in a previous lesson. And we're going to bring it right here. Now, so let's go to Second Maccabees, right? Chapter 6, right? And this you got to get on your belt if you're going to comprehend that the Eurocentric have hijacked, have imposed the spiritual African religions, and they've put their spin on it, and they've given it back to the African people. There's a guy, I don't know if he's still on YouTube, named Ray Hagen, years ago. He broke it down. He said the Egyptians are the original true Christians. So when we connect ourselves to Christianity, we're not connecting ourselves to the Messiah. We're connecting ourselves to the Son. You ever stop and wonder for a second, hear my stomach growling? You ever stop and wonder for a second, why is it that when you see pictures of Jesus, he's got a helio around his head? Have you ever stopped to wonder that? I can show you some images that I don't have to do that. You can Google it. Google Jesus and you'll see they have images with the sun around his head. Okay? That ought to tell you something right there. That's symbolism. It's telling you something, right? Everything that the Eurocentric powers have in their hand has sun in it. You got sun, oil, and gas. Sun Bank and Trust. Everything is sun, right? Sunday service, Sunday school. I kid you not. Everything that the Europeans have embraced got the sun connected to it. Which ought to tell you, they worship the sun. You got the solstice, the summer solstice, you got the winter solstice, all based on the sun, right? You got Sunday service, you got Resurrection Sunday, all based off of the sun, right? You got Father's Day on a Sunday, you got Mother's Day on a Sunday, right? You got Thanksgiving that follows the sun, the last Thursday, which is Thor's Day, right? In the month, in preparation of the solstice, which culminates within that 30-day period after. That's the connection. Y'all don't see this. I don't see how y'all can't make the connection. That is all connected to the sun. But y'all think I'm crazy because I'm telling you this stuff. It's like, brother, you left Christianity. Why you need Christianity? I'm telling you that because it has its origin in sun worship. Okay. Now, where was I going? Okay, so Second Maccabees chapter 6, right? Let's go here, 6:1. It's 6:1-2. It says, not long after the king sent an old man of Athens to compel Yehudim to depart from the laws of the fathers. Boom. We're not under the law, brother. That's where it came from. It came from the Greeks. So your doctrine, Christian, what do you call them? Apologists. Your doctrine came from the Greeks, brother. Every last one of them church fathers was influenced by Greek hijacking the Egyptian sun worship. That's straight up truth.
What you bringing to the table, brother?
So the Greeks hijacked the religion of the Egyptians, the people of Ham, the people that the Israelites was taken from the land to separate us from that, only to find out that later on, I think that maybe somewhere around 600 BC, when the Greeks and Gentiles came into power, they brought all of that Egyptian worship, sun worship, back to us on a plate. And we bought it. Hook, line, and sinker. And we've been stuck ever since. I'm sitting near you. We've been stuck. We've been stuck like Chuck ever since. Right now, somebody start talking about that. It start bothering you. You're ready to change the channel because you're attacking my faith. Silly rabbit tricks for kids. All right, now I'm gonna make you good and mad. Going to throw a rock at your screen. You better make sure you got where you pay for your protection plans because you about ready to throw a rock like that guy did when who was that Super Bowl? Who was that playing? He busted the screen. It was Super Bowl was I think it was a Super Bowl or playoff game. He busted the TV screen. Don't be busting your TV screen when truth hits you, right? Just research and find out. You don't have to believe nothing I say. I'm giving you references so you can go and read yourself. Right? I'm just an usher. Okay, now let me get back in. All right. So, verse 2. Second Maccabees 6:2. And let me back up again. So, the Athens, it says, long after the king sent an old man to Athens. This was an old man. That's the one you got to watch out. And they said nothing worse than an old fool, right? They sent an old man of Athens to compel the Yahudim to depart from the laws of the fathers and not to live after the laws of Yah. That's the same spirit of Christianity, right? And to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem and to call it the temple of Jupiter Olympus. How about that? Okay. That altar or that temple of Jupiter Olympus is the house of Jesus Christ. He is their God. Jesus is the Greek God, but he wasn't called Jesus because the Latins gave you the Jesus, right? The Greek deity, right? And I know somebody said, well, brother, etymology was Jesus, and Zeus is not the same. Well, I'll leave that to Maury Josiah to break it down. I'm talking about the deity in essence. I'm not talking about the transliteration of the name. I'm talking about the actual deity. Right? Jesus represents the Greek deity Zeus. Okay. Now, that's why we see it here. To pollute the temple of Jerusalem and to call it the temple of Jupiter Olympus, right? So, with that said, when you Google, right, who is Jupiter Olympus? Okay. Was Jupiter Olympus the same as Zeus?
Yes. Zeus and Jupiter are the same god. Zeus was the Greek king of the gods, ruling from Mount Olympus, while Jupiter was the Roman equivalent. Both were sky and thunder gods, sharing similar myths and characteristics.
What you bringing to the table, brother?
So there goes your Jesus right there. Somebody tell Pastor Omar, because he still got Jesus. He did a lesson and said, well, Jesus was invented, but it's okay to call him Jesus. You call on a Greek deity. Jupiter. Right? I.U. Peter. So your Jesus is Jupiter or Zeus in essence.
You in danger, girl.
I know that hurts, right? I know that hurts. I know that hurts. That's painful because when it was brought to me years ago, I cried like a baby. So I know the pain you're going through by hearing this. I know it hurts. But truth will set you free if you embrace it, right? So now, along with that, the breaking of the law, we're not under the law no more, brother. And that's the Greek Christian doctrine. The early fathers co-signed for it. And they handed it to you on a silver platter. Right? All right. Let's go further because this chapter gets deeper. It goes in deep. Y'all better call these bishop tongue. Come online. This brother with a kufi on his head is attacking my Christian faith and attacking my Lord and Savior, personal Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. He's your personal Lord and Savior. Where you find that at in the book? Where did that phrase? Did that come from the fathers too? Personal Lord and Savior? I bet you it did. Everything y'all got came from the church fathers, and the church fathers were Greek philosophers. The main primary one was Justin Martyr, who was a Greek philosopher. He gave y'all Christian doctrine, but y'all hold on to it. He earnestly contend for the faith that was once delivered to the saints. Well, that wasn't the faith that was delivered. That wasn't what Yahudah was talking about. He was an Israelite. But anyway, let me continue. So they did what they called the temple in Jerusalem, the temple of Jupiter, Olympus, or the house of Jesus, right? And that in Gerizim of Jupiter, the defender of strangers, as they did desire that dwelt in the place. So Gerizim of Jupiter, the defender of strangers. The coming in of this mischief was sore and grievous to the people. Let me read that again, right? The coming in of this mischief was sore and grievous to the people. For the temple was filled with riot, and the revelings by the Gentiles. Sound like Christmas, right? Saturnalia. For the temple was filled with riot and reveling by the Gentiles, who daily with harlots. You can't make this stuff up, brothers and sisters. And had to do with women with the circuit of the holy places. And I could go somewhere with that, but I'm going to leave that to somebody else. You go on YouTube and see these pastors, these female praise leaders with these tight dresses on, with the pedunkus. And people can't focus on the singing for looking at the pedunkus. I'm gonna say them, and I'm not gonna stay here long. We visited Jamal Bryant's church when he was in Baltimore. It was a New Year's Eve service. I was trying to be a little pliable with my brother, and at the time I was dating Bronte, and he said, we're going to go to New Year's Eve service. So I went, got there, man, they had so much flesh. They had women on the praise team, man, They was all loose and wild. That's what came to mind when I read it. I was like, wow, the prostitutions. And he preached a sermon called Hannah Montana. I kid you not, man. Hannah Montana, right? What they got to do with anything, right? That's what he preached on, right? I was like, wow. The whole time I was there, I was like, you know what? Christianity has not changed, right? Okay, anyway, let me back. So, 4, he says, where was I at? The coming of this mischief was sore grievous to the people, for the temple was filled with riot and reveling by the Gentiles, who daily with harlots and had to do with women with the circuit of the holy places, and besides that brought in things that were not lawful. The altar also was filled with profane things which the law forbids. Right? Okay, what they tell you? What's the first thing Christians tell you? Oh, the food is sanctified by the word and prayer. Let's pray for them ham hocks and black eyed peas and chitlins and ask the Lord to bless them as we consume these unclean meats. That's what they basically do, right? The Most High said these meats is unclean, but they gonna go down there and pray and the Holy Ghost over it and thank you. Now it's sanctified. Hey, thank you. Go ahead and eat your pork chops, your barbecue ribs. Matter of fact, while you're in the midst of it, go ahead and get you some what that stuff? What's that New Orleans dish that they got? What's it called? Gumbo. Get you a bowl of gumbo. It's prayer, but it's sanctified through prayer, right? You'll be all right. Okay. That's what they did. Let's continue. So he brought everything. He brought everything to the altar, right? The law was a law. He said, neither was it lawful for man to, okay, let me back up. The altar was filled with profane things which the law forbids, right? So, in other words, you eat what you want to eat. All right, it's okay, just pray, right? Verse 6. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep the Sabbath days or ancient fasts or to profess himself at all to be a Yahudim. Okay, look at that. So, now, I'm not going to probably read it today, but if you go to the Spanish Inquisition on the Portugal time, right, we'll read a little bit of that in this extracurricular book I'm going to read. Okay, so they forbid them to keep the Shabbat. And they call them, and the church fathers call them Judaizers for keeping the laws of Yah. That's where they all came. It all started with the church fathers, the Greek philosophers. They was indoctrinated with the doctrine of the Greek Christianity, that anything that came against that, they chopped it up. Just like today, right? That's why I got this sister. What's her name? What's on the corner? God is glorious. What's her name? She's on attacking the Hebrews like, they're cock. Right? Okay, now let's go back. I'm telling you, this chapter right here, boy, this puts the nail in the coffin. Right? All right. So neither was it lawful for a man to keep the Sabbath days or ancient fasts as the Day of Atonement, or to profess himself to be a Yahudim. Right? You're a Christian. You're not a Jew. You're not a Jew or Hebrew. You're a Christian. Right? Okay. In that day of the king's birth, every month they were brought by bitter constraint to eat of sacrifices. And when the fast of Bacchus, wait a minute, Bacchus was kept, the Yehudim were compelled to go in possession of Bacchus carrying ivy. Okay, wait a minute, brother.
Wait a minute.
Who's Bacchus? Who was Bacchus? Okay, Bacchus, she ain't all gonna tell me. I'm gonna read it. Bacchus is a Roman god of wine and agriculture. Sound familiar? Harvest deity at the end of the year feast. That's where you get your Halloween, your fall harvest, grain harvest festivities that Christianity have imposed on you. Trick or treat. Part of that. Samhain, right? Okay. Bacchus is the Roman god of wine, agriculture, and fertility, and the Roman equivalent of the Greek god Dionysus. Right? Okay, now let's do this here real quick. Who was Bacchus?
Bacchus was the Roman god of wine, agriculture, and revelry, the Roman equivalent of the Greek god Dionysus. He was associated with religious ecstasy and was known for his wild festivals called Bacchanalia.
He was associated with religious ecstasy. That goes back to the Greeks, ecstasy, right? Look, I'm just reading what the people's telling you. What is ecstasy? Okay, what is ecstasy?
Ecstasy has two main meanings. 1. An intense feeling of overwhelming joy or excitement. 2. The illegal drug MDMA. 3. 4-methylene-dioxymethamphetamine, which acts as both a stimulant and psychedelic, causing euphoria, increased energy, and enhanced sensory perception.
So, he says ecstasy. We're not going to talk about the drug ecstasy. We're going to talk about, because that feeling, it says ecstasy is an intense feeling. Oh, I feel God in this place, right? That's ecstasy, right? Y'all don't operate in feelings. Religion does. Intense feeling of overwhelming joy or excitement. So that came to you from the Greeks. Indoctrinated with it because it's become a part of our DNA. We don't want to stop doing it. Okay. I'm going to leave it there. Take with it what you want to take with it. Take out of it what you want to take out of it. But I'm going to leave it right there. All right, now go back in here. So, Bacchus in verse 8. Moreover, there went out a decree to the neighbor cities of the heathens by suggestion to Ptolemy against the Yahudim that they should observe the same fashions and be partakers of their sacrifices, right? And whoso would not conform themselves to the manners of the Gentiles should be put to death. Then might a man have seen the present misery. Verse 10. For there were 2 women brought who had circumcised their children, whom they had openly led round about the city, the babes handling at the breast. They cast them down headlong from the wall, threw them down by the head. And others that had run together into caves nearby to keep the Shabbat secretly, being discovered by Philip, were all burnt together because they made a conscience to help themselves for the honor of the most sacred day. Okay. Man. So are y'all making the connection here? Huh? So we're gonna bring it to modern current time, but we've shown you the origin of this lawless doctrine, of this changing the Sabbath, of this embracing the feast of the heathens. And when you don't keep those feasts, oh, what's wrong with you, brother? You don't celebrate Jesus' birthday? Show them this. They're going to say, what, is that a trick Bible? When I was in Chicago, they used to always say that. What, you got a trick Bible, brother? That's a trick Bible. Boy, Ray Josiah can relate to that. It's a trick Bible. You got a trick Bible, brother. Okay, now, For now, he says here, I beseech those that read this book that they be not discouraged for these calamities, but that they judge those punishments not to be for destruction, but for the chastening of our nation. For it is a token of our great goodness when wicked doers are not suffering any long time, but forthwith punished. For not as with other nations whom Yah patiently forbear to punish till they come to fullness of sins, so dealeth he with us, lest that become the height of the sin, afterwards he should take vengeance of us, right? Okay, now, so that's good. Okay, I'm not going to read the rest of that. Y'all can read the rest of that, right? Okay. So, the origin, as we're showing you in this particular sharing, of the origin of Christianity has its root in the Greeks. So all of the pillar doctrines of grace, not under the law, started with the Greeks, who hijacked and incorporated their polytheistic. That's why your Trinity is a part of that, because the Greeks were polytheistic. So that's why they got three gods, three and one God in three persons. That comes from Greek mythology. They were polytheistic. So you got three gods in one. That came to you from the Greeks, right? So now what I want to do, I want to offer you a source. It's called The Colonialism of Africa. I think it's called The Colonialism of Africa. Let me give you the link here, because I have the hard copy, digitized copy, but I want you to have a copy so you can download it to your iPhone, to your Samsung, and to your Android, right? All right. So there are two versions of this book. I want the oldest one. So let's do it like this, because they did a revision, and the revision is not the same as the original. They added some stuff. Okay, so this one here is the 19. So the 1913 was a revision. That's not the one I want. I want the one that was 18. So let's see. Hold on. Oh, this is another one come popping. Okay, that's a modern book. Okay. Let's see. What was it? 1848. Hold on for a second. I'll tell you in a second. Just bear with me a second here. It's 1899. 1899. Okay. Let me see if I can get I don't want to give you the old, I want to give you the older print. So that's 1899. Okay. So let me see. Okay, is this the one here? Hold on a second. Let me see. Just bear with me a second here. Yeah, this is it. Okay, this is it. All right. This is it. Okay. Now I want to go to page. Oh, what page is that on? I want to go to the part where it says, I think it's chapter. I'm gonna give you the actual link. It's chapter 8 in this particular one. So this page here. So let's do this here. Select all, copy, and y'all take this down and save it to your iPhone, Android. All right, Shabbat Shalom, Coach Deanna. Good to see you, my sister. Light to the Gentile. Okay, he said he light to the Gentiles. So he popping in to smash the likes. Somebody said Israelites already know this stuff. They just choose the idols. On every other corner at Christian churches near you. The heathen even turned Nimrod, the Cushite, white. I love college football still, but it used to violate Shabbat. I do watch after Shabbat. Okay. Jesus has no meaning and his name is confusion. Okay, let's see. Coach Sherry, Shabbat Shalom to you, Coach Sherry, son of Yaakov, Shabbat Shalom. Set. Kima, Shabbat Shalom. If you've been keeping up with the feast, but some of the reason you missed out on the day, like Thomas, you meant to do it. What would any of you would do after that? Kima, did you miss the Day of Atonement? I saw that you called me too. I'm telling you, it was tough for me this week to return calls. Back in 2016, I had a Eurocentric minded black Christian family buy me a book, a facsimile of the 1611 Bible, Oxford hard copy book for about $275. Now it's through the roof. Yeah, Hittites were there. The Hittites were there. Right. Yep. Moray Josiah, that's right. Coach Shmur, good to see you. Shabbat Shalom, Moray Josiah. They did what anti-Semitism tried to do 300 years earlier, but only better. Yep, that's right. Man, that's so true. Okay, all right. Not too many comments. Okay, all right. Let's go back in here. All right, so let's get deep now. So we got the book archive. Click on that link there. Now, what I want to do is I want to go to this is chapter 8, Christian, on page 146. So let's go there. Let's make this as a 1. Okay, and let's do it. I can actually blow it up a little bit. Okay. And what I want to do is I want to go to page 146. We're going to start there. And we're going to show you. So, let's see. Hold on a second. 146. So go with me to page 146. We're going to start at the Christian, right? Okay, this is 142. 143, 44, 45, 46. So this is, we're going to start here where it says Christian missions, right? Okay. We're bringing it up closer to home now. All right. So, because a lot of my African brothers and sisters, I mean, especially in America, I mean, Africans are the ones that actually still speak their native tongue. A lot of them don't really know this stuff here, why they're so gung-ho to become a Christian. And they're really, I tell you, Christianity seems to be more of a stronghold amongst African people than it does amongst African Americans. You have a lot of African Americans now, quote unquote African Americans, who now become atheists or agnostic or just call themselves spiritual people. But the Africans, man, they got it bad. Woo. So much so that they telling people they saw Jesus, a white man, in their room. But anyway, okay. Excuse me. It's a little chilly this morning. Okay. If I were writing this work for dramatic effect and less with the view of historical sequence, I should have been disposed to put this chapter next to the one dealing with the slave trade as an effective pendant. Let me read that again. That's deep right there. This is Sir Harry H. Johnson. He said, if I were writing this little work for dramatic effect and less with a view of historical sequence, I should have been disposed to put this chapter next to the one dealing with the slave trade. Boom. All right, let me put on my CNI glasses here. All right. Where was that? I can see too much now. As an effective pendant. For if Europe has dealt wickedly in enslaving Africa, she has sent thither a high-minded army of men, acting nearly always from noble and unselfish motives, to raise the African from his brutish ignorance to a glimpse of better things. And as England was the greatest sinner, read that again. As England was the greatest sinner among all white peoples in the thoroughness with which she prosecuted the slave trade, she deserves credit, on the other hand, for a degree of missionary effort far surpassing that attributable to any other nation. Man.
What you bringing to the table, brother?
What you... Y'all got to see this stuff. I mean, look, y'all better download that book and share that book with the pastor. Matter of fact, ask some questions to the pastors. Those y'all Sunday worshipers that go to church on Sunday. If the pastor entertain questions, ask some questions about this stuff. Some pastors don't know this stuff because all they know is Christian dogma. See, I'm a historian. So when you look at see the historical dynamic where this stuff came from, right? All right, now, what time is it? I don't want to, okay. Prolong the time. All right. So he says, I should have been disposed to put this chapter next to the one dealing with the slave trade as an effective pendant. For if Europe has dealt wickedly in enslaving Africa, she has sent thither a high-minded army of men. So in other words, make America great again, right? America should be a Christian nation. It's the same spirit that was then, okay? The high-minded army of men acting nearly always from noble and unselfish motives, right? So in other words, boom. We want y'all to be saved. The rapture. Oh! The rapture is coming. Give your life to Jesus Christ so you can be raptured. That's what that indoctrination of Christian nationalism, which is a embracing of the what we're showing you here, the colonial missionaries, right?
What you bringing to the table, brother?
All right, now. England was the greatest sinner amongst all white peoples in the thoroughness, crafty counsel, thoroughness. They had taken crafty counsel against that hidden ones, thoroughness with which she prosecuted the slave trade, right? The Messiah said, Luke 21:24, it should be led captive to all nations, right? Who did it? The sons of Japheth, the times of the Gentiles, right? That's connecting the dots here, right? Effort of far surpassing that attributed to any other nation. Now, the Portuguese were the first among us to send missionaries to Africa. Let me read that again. The Portuguese were the first among us to send missionaries to Africa. One more time. Because see, we're going to break this down. We're going to break down who these Portuguese are, and then you will be clear. And you will know that what you have embraced didn't originate with the Hebrews. All right. So, the Portuguese were the first among us to send missionaries to Africa. So basically, he set the precedent at first to say in the first paragraph that these so-called unselfish or high-minded army of men acted like they was unselfish and had acting nearly always from noble and unselfish motives, right? We're going to go into Africa and we're going to introduce them to Jesus, and they're going to live, they're going to become clean, they're going to have a life like us. They got the predecessor of the Nick Fuentes spirit. We're going to do a series on white nationalism. We're going to bring that. We're going to show you, make the connection between that, and then we go into this Christian history, Christian church, right? Okay, now. So let's go back. All right. So Portuguese were the first among to send missionaries to Africa, and their zeal was great, and with one or two exceptions, wholly praiseworthy. Okay, here's the thing. Portuguese priests and Jesuits accompanied most of the early expeditions to Africa. Boom. The Portuguese priests. Okay, let's stop for a second. Wait a minute. I'm helping y'all help yourself. Who were the Portuguese priests?
Portuguese priests have played a significant role throughout history, particularly as Jesuit missionaries during the Age of Exploration. Notable figures include Antonio Vieira, 17th century, a renowned Jesuit priest, orator, diplomat, and writer active in Portugal and Brazil. Manuel de Nobrega, 16th century, who led the first Jesuit mission to colonial Brazil. Luis Foix, 16th century, a missionary and writer famous for his History of Japan. Cristóvão Ferreira, 16th-17th century, a Jesuit missionary who apostatized in Japan after torture, a figure featured in the novel Silence.
Oh, we're not going to talk about that. But the Jesuits colonized and missionary the whole globe to that same Greek religion of Christianity. We just said it right here. There, look. Antonio Vieira, right? He went at the same Hebrews that they enslaved in Portugal and sent to the west coast of Africa and to the islands of Say Tomé or Say Thomas, right? Sao Tome. How you say it? Sao Tome. My Spanish, Latin, Spanish speaking people can correct me. All right. So they did that. Manuel went to Brazil. Okay. Luis went to Japan. Right. And Cristóvão. The name got Christ in it. Cristóvão. Right? So they were evangelists. So the Jesuit, let me see, hold on, let me do this real quick. Okay, so who were the Jesuits?
The Jesuits, formerly known as the Society of Jesus, are a worldwide Catholic religious order of men founded in 1540 by Street, Ignatius of Loyola * and his companions. Their mission is focused on serving God and humanity, often expressed through education, missionary work, and promoting social justice, guided by the principle of finding God in all things. They are the largest male religious order in the Catholic Church.
Oh, how about that? So, in other words, Jesuits are the arm of the Christian church, right? They are the arm, right? They are known as the Society of Jesus. They're the ones that gave you Jesus, right? Jesus, right? That's the proper way to pronounce the name J-E-S-U-S. Is Jesus. Hey, Zeus. Jesus. You can't make this stuff up, brothers and sisters. So who were the evangelizers or the missionaries that gave you Jesus? Jesus. It is and was the Jesuits, the arm of the Roman Catholic Church. Okay, so that's what their mission was, right? So they accompanied the Portuguese priest, right, and the Jesuits. Now, there's another reference book. I'm not going to go there, but the reference book tells you that, or tells you the story. I think it's the Inquisition. Is it Geographus? But if you're looking for the references, I'll give you the references to those books. Okay, without extending this particular stream, I'm not going to go there. But Dante Fortson has multiple references for purchase on different books and stuff like that, and he does a lot of quoting from that, right? I'm showing you this source here, and this is something that I discovered, right? I had this in my archive. I just never read from it or use it for teaching, I should say. But I have a whole slew of these books that kind of concur with each other, right? Okay, so back in. So now, the Portuguese were the first among us to send missionaries to Africa, and their zeal was great, and with one or two exceptions, wholly praiseworthy. Portuguese priests and Jesuits accompanied most of their early expeditions to Africa. In fact, hardly any explorer or conquistador sailed without chaplains in his company who raised the cross and preached Christianity as soon as they set foot on shore. So that's what they did. So they preached Christianity. Now, what I want to do is conquistador. Okay. What is a conquistador?
A conquistador was a Spanish or Portuguese conqueror and explorer, particularly one of the leaders involved in the 16th century conquest of vast territories in the Americas. They were driven by a desire for wealth, especially gold and silver, glory, and the spread of Christianity, leading to the subjugation of indigenous empires like the Aztecs and Incas.
Right. So that's what it's confirming. They traveled the globe to impose Christianity for the purpose of what? What do you say? For the purpose of what? For desire of wealth, especially of gold and silver. That's why they went to Africa. Glory and the spread of Christianity, leading to the subjugation of indigenous empires. So, to subjugate the people of the book, the Jesuits, the priests, the arms of the Roman Catholic Church, which is the Roman religion, right, indoctrinated the Hebrews, who they found in Africa and Portugal, primarily, before they kicked them out. They made them convert to keep them at odds against the Creator so they continue to perpetuate the curse, and that the Gentiles can continue to reign in what? In wealth, in gold, in silver, right? And in glory. That's why they gave you Christianity. Because Christianity, see, you're not under the law, brother. That's what Christianity connects. That's the connecting point. That's what people don't get. Has nothing to do with believing in the Messiah. And if you do believe in the Messiah didn't teach against Torah.
What you bringing to the table, brother?
All right, now. So that's what they did. So it says that the Portuguese priests and Jesuits accompanied most of the early expeditions to Africa. In fact, hardly any explorer or conquistador sailed without chaplains in his company who raised the cross and preached Christianity as soon as they set foot on shore. Right. So that's what they did. So the ones that led the slave trade, brothers, were Catholic priests, Jesuits. They would take the Israelites, who they found on the west coast of Africa, Christianize them, and send them into the transatlantic New World with a new name and a new religion. And it's stuck to this very day. Now, he says, in my chapter on Portuguese in Africa, I have touched upon the introduction of Christianity into Congoland in 1491. Maybe let's see, this week is starting, this week coming is starting the feasts of Booths, Kagasuka. So next Shabbat, we'll take a pass. I might take a break next Shabbat. Maybe if time permits, I'll do a lesson. I do know that I need to take a break from time to time, especially with my schedule I have now. So please, those of you that's been sending your contributions, you can hold off on your $1,000 contributions that y'all been making on a weekly basis. Praise y'all for those contributions, but you can hold off next Shabbat on those $1,000 contributions that you all been sending me. I'm kidding. Nobody been sending me no $1,000 contributions. Don't y'all believe that? My bank has been empty from contributions. I'm just being sarcastic. Okay, all right. So what I want to do is I want to amplify a little more about this Portuguese period. So let's see. We'll start here when we start with our Christian history series that we're going to do during the downtime. Let's start with Portuguese, and we'll branch out that. Okay, all right. So I have some other references we'll use. All right. So the Portuguese were the ones that went into Africa and to the globe for that matter. So Christianity followed them. Okay. Unfortunately, any race of pure Negro blood accepts and loses Christianity with great facility. Unfortunately, any race of purely Negro blood accepts and loses Christianity with great facility. What is that? What does that mean? Unfortunately, any race of purely Negro blood accepts and loses Christianity with great facility. The Negro, unless he be Mohammedanized. In other words, I see what he's saying. The Negro is an easy prey for Christianity. Even those that don't go to church, that tell you I'm a Christian. They don't know the Bible. They don't go to church, but I'm a Christian. And the brother told me that years ago, young brother. He said, I heard you're a Muslim. I said, I'm not a Muslim. They said you're a Muslim. Because I'm not a Christian, I'm a Muslim. That's what you deduce me to, because I'm not a Christian. So people that don't go to church, even the R&B, hip hop, or rap, they'll tell you I'm a Christian. They wear big old crosses on their neck. He rapping and everything, but they Christians, right? Okay. That's the stronghold, right? All right, now. So the Negro, unless Mohammedanized, is easily converted and as easily relapses into a gross superstition or a negation of all religion, including his former simple but sound ideas of right and wrong, right? So that's what I just said. So you got the atheists, right? Okay. So now to our brothers that are in Islam, you know, the Islamic sent missionaries to Africa. That's how we got the Nation of Islam, right? Malcolm X, right? What they call the conscious movements, right? Our brothers that's in Islam don't know that that was a part of the Arabic colonialism. Okay? Some of us held on to Islam. Some let it go, right? When you read the story or you see the what's it called? Alex Haley's Roots, and the part when John Amos is playing Kunta Kinte, and he tells his wife, I ain't never gonna be no Christian. I ain't never gonna eat no pork, because he was one of them that was converted to Islam. Now, I don't want to do too much focus on Islam, but I just want to hit that in passing, all right? And as easily relapse into a gross superstition of negation of all religion, including his former simple but sound ideas of right and wrong, right? That's so that we have a big movement of people who have embraced agnosticism or atheism. It's not the same, but they're on the same page, on the same flow. That Christianity may become permanently rooted in a Negro race, it is necessary that it be maintained by a higher power for a long period as the religion of the state. Let me read that again. Somebody missed that. That Christianity may become permanently rooted in a Negro race. It is necessary that it be maintained by a higher power for a long period as the religion of the state. Boom. Woo, what you bring to the table, brother?
What you bringing to the table, brother?
See, y'all don't know. Look. This man is telling y'all why you're a Christian. Okay. I got to show you who the Portuguese is first, right? Okay. Because I got to make that connection for somebody that's... But we're going to come back to page 147, right? All right? So hold your finger there. All right. Hold me to it. I might forget. Matter of fact, let me do this here. Let me open another tab. That way I'll come back to that page. Okay. All right. Let's open another tab. Okay. So I want to go to this section here where It's let's see, it's chapter the Portuguese in Africa. So we're gonna start right there. Let's read that part there because this actually is an excellent source. Shows you the colonization and Christianity came along with that colonization, right? All right, so this is on page 17. So let's go to page 17. All right, 17. See what's 17. Let's see where I'm at here. 17. Let's see. That's 5. Okay, I need to go 17, right? That's 21. Let's go backwards. Okay, let's see. Oh, wait a minute, hold on. That's not the right page. Wait a minute, something's wrong here. Let's go back to my table of contents. Somehow or another I missed it. The Portuguese in Africa, it says chapter 2. Okay, so let's see. Let's do, hold on a second. Just bear with me a second here. Chapter. Why is it missing the? Hold on. I don't know what's going on here. Something's not right. Okay, here we go. All right, here we go. All right, I'm there. So it's actually page 27. Okay, anyway. So I want y'all to look at this part right here. This is going to connect the dots here, brothers and sisters, right? All right. So he says, this is chapter 2. For those that may have wondered, right? And I always wonder, we talk about where did the Portuguese people come from, right? So he tells you where they came from, right? Because there was no son of Japheth called Portugal. Okay, now here we go. The mother of Portugal was Galicia, right? Okay, underline that part there. The mother of Portugal was Galicia, okay? Now, who was the people of Galicia? Or Galicia.
The term people of Galicia refers to two distinct groups due to two separate historical regions named Galicia.
Okay.
1. Galicians, Gallegos, an ethnic group primarily from the autonomous community of Galicia in northwest Spain, the Iberian Peninsula. They are culturally and linguistically distinct, often tracing their roots back to ancient Celtic tribes known as the Galaici. Their language is Galician.
Okay.
2. Historical populations of the former Kingdom of Galicia and Lodomeria, a multi-ethnic region in Eastern Europe that is now divided between Poland and Ukraine. Its historical population was a mix of ethnic groups, mainly Poles, Ruthenians, Ukrainians, and Jews, along with smaller German, Armenian, and other communities.
Okay. All right. So he said a lot. Okay. So Galicia, okay. Are they connected with the Galatians?
Both names, Galicia, Spain, and Galatians, Turkey, derive from a common ancient root linked to the wider movement of Celtic peoples across Europe. Galicia, Spain, takes its name from the ancient Celtic tribes known as the Galaici. Galatians, Turkey, were Celtic people who migrated from the Balkans and settled in central Anatolia in the 3rd century BC. The name of the Eastern European Galicia, Poland/Ukraine, is generally believed to come from the medieval city of Halych, but some historians speculate that Halich's name might also have a root connection to the Celts.
Celtic people. How about that? Imagine that. So He's connecting the Portugal people with the Celtic Galatians, right? So, so what is the origin of Celtic people?
The Celts originated from a group of ancient cultures in Central Europe during the Late Bronze and Early Iron Ages.
Right.
Specifically, their direct cultural ancestors are generally identified with the Hallstatt culture, circa 800 to 450 BC, which succeeded the Urnfield culture, circa 1300 to 750 BC, in the regions north of the Alps, spanning from modern-day Austria to France.
Right. So in other words, they're mutt, right? So now these people, the Galatia, right, are the mother of Portugal, right? Or the Celtic people. So when you go to the book, Paul's letter to the Gentiles, the Galatians, right? These are the people, right? Now, what did Paul say to the Galatians? Oh, foolish Galatians. Oh, foolish Galatians, right? So Paul's epistle to the Galatians was that they were the predecessors of the people Portugal, which are a conglomeration of a mixture of all those different Japhetic people that's in Europe. They're the ones that gave you Christianity in its Roman form, because the Jesuits were the arm of the Catholic, which is the Roman version of the Greek Christianity. So if we was to open up the book on the enslavement of the Portugal, I think it's a book, The Jews and Moors of Spain. I think that's one of the books where he talks about how that they imposed the Roman religion. I think is it America Being an Accurate Description? I think it's one of the references where he talks about that, the Roman religion, right? Okay. If you need resources and references to that, reach out to me by way of email. Otherwise, my time is very short, so I don't have a lot of time. So if you're interested, if you want me to send you some references to that free of charge, in my in between times, I'll try to give you the references. Okay. So that's who the Portugal are connected with. That page is gone, but even the Russian Jews are connected to that, right? Okay, let's go back in here. Where's my seeing eye glasses here? Okay. So the mother of Portugal was Galatia. Now we know that Galatians are, right? That northwestern province of present Kingdom of Spain. It was here, at any rate, that the Portuguese language developed from a dialect of a provincial Latin. So are you following the story? So Latin gave you Jesus, right? The Greeks gave you Jesus. The Latins gave you Jesus. Anglos and Saxons gave you Jesus. Let me say that again. The Greeks gave you Jesus. The Latins gave you Jesus. And the Anglos and Saxons gave you Jesus. That's the transition of the deity. Right? Okay. Provincial Latin, and hence that the first expedition started to drive the Moors out of that territory, which subsequently became the Kingdom of Portugal. So the Moors was in there. Now, if we go back in this book, right, which I don't have time in this session to do all of that, you can read from the book. You go earlier on in chapter 1, right, where he talks about Carthage, right? Okay. they were the ones that settled. They came from Ham, right? Now, what I want to do is, I just had a thought there. I don't want to be too abstract, so I'm trying to keep it simple. Okay. But I had a reference to that. Let's see. Without being too, let's see, hold on a second. Let me see if I can do this here. It's the same book. Matter of fact, I won't do that because I don't want to go too far out. Okay. But in the same book, it tells you about, man, it's hard for me not to do it. Since I mentioned, let me see, what page am I on? I want to lose my page. That's page 52. Okay, in this digital copy. Okay, so let's go. It's a lot in this book. It's a lot in this book. I mean, a lot of history. It talks about the Bantus, how the Bantus, that's our connection. Bantu Negroes were the masters of Southern Africa. Okay, so I want to go right here. Okay, so here's right here. Okay. I'm kind of in the middle of the thought, so kind of just try to bear with me here with this. Okay, so it says here, almost coincident with the Bantu race movement occurred. The first conscious Semitic attempts at colonizing Africa. The enterprising Phoenicians founded Carthage and established trading stations along the north and northwest coast of Africa. Nearly at the same time, Arabs from the west coast of Arabia voyaging down to the east coast of Africa till they ultimately settled in the Sofala district of Zambezi. Okay. And penetrating inland, commenced to work the gold mines of modern Rhodesia, leaving there as witness of their present and stone forts and buildings, which we have recently rediscovered, right? It says, a Semitic people also about the same time began to settle in Abyssinia, where it has remained the dominant race ever since. Other Phoenicians, besides those who founded Carthage, so it's saying the Phoenicians founded Carthage, explored the coast of Africa, especially the east coast, where they, what was that? It fell. Where they founded stations as far south as Mozambique. Is that supposed to be Mozambique? Possibly. They may have even reached the gold-bearing districts of Zambezi and the one expedition under Phoenician navigators employed by Egyptian King Necho. It is said to have circumnavigated Africa from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean by 600 BCE. So that's on the whole, the most fruitful or pre-Roman invasions of Africa. That's the part I want to read here. Here it is. On the whole, the most fruitful of the pre-Roman invasions of Africa. Let me say that again. On the whole, the most fruitful of the pre-Roman invasions of Africa. So before there was any Eurocentric that came into Africa, there was a pre-moral invasion. There was a pre-fruitful, a pre-Roman Roman invasion of Africa, and watch who he says these people were, right? Let's go. It says, as it was almost the earliest was the foundation of Utica, about 1100 BC, and Carthage about 280 years later. The Phoenicians, whose descendants had become known as the Carthaginians through to the Romans, they were always the Poni or Puni in the main founded trading stations rather than colonies, but the cities of Utica, Carthage, Hippo, and other Carthaginian ports on the northeast coast of Tunis. Naturally, under a centralized government, to some extent maintained during centuries of domination over the Berber tribes of what is now Tunisia. There are traces of Carthaginian causeway running up the valley of Majerta and southeast toward the country of the dates and hot springs. When Carthage was most vigorously, no doubt the Berber tribes within 100 miles of her strongest settlements gave her their allegiance in varying degree, but at least weakening of her power, right? They were ready to revolt and take parts with her enemies. Okay, so I don't want to continue to go too much into this because this talks about Hannibal down here. Hannibal, who was the Carthaginian general, right? And these trading stations were dotted over the north coast of Africa to the Straits of Gibraltar and down to Atlantic coast of Morocco, to the point almost within sight of Canary Islands. There has been transmitted to us through the diligence of ancient Greek geographers, Greek version of what is supposed to be the original description of Punic of the voyage of Hanno the Carthaginian. Okay, so without going too deep into that, for you analytical, philosophical people, it's good reading. To those of you that just speak plain English, it might be too much for you, right? Okay, so that's basically giving you the transitional period, right? So it was the Carthaginian people that brought the pagan worship to the Hebrews, right? So the same people. If you notice, the pattern is the same people that the Most High separated us from kept indoctrinating us with paganism, right? Okay. So, let's go back to page, what was it, 52 I was on? Okay, it was 52. 52 on the digital. Okay. It says here, but the Portuguese, like the Spaniards, not content with riding the peninsula of the Moorish invaders, attempted to carry the war into the enemy's country, urged thereto by the irritating attacks of Moorish pirates. In 1415, as already related, a Portuguese army landed on the coast of Morocco and captured the citadel of Ceuta, the Roman scepter. Okay, so basically what we're showing you is that the Portuguese were the first ones to missionary evangelize the Hebrews, who they call the Black Portuguese, right? So it was through that was the beginning of the evangelical effort of the Europeans to evangelize Christianity amongst the Hebrews. Now let's go back to page 147. Okay. So he says that Christianity may become permanently rooted in a Negro race. It is necessary that it be maintained by a higher power for a long period as a religion of the state. The Negro kingdoms which have retained their independence have usually lost their Christianity in a recognizable form. And read that again. The Negro kingdoms, the black church, that's what it equates to today, which have retained their independence, have usually lost their Christianity in a recognizable form. It is not so with the Mohammedanism, that explanation being that Mohammedanism as taught to the Negro demands no sacrifice of his bodily lust, whereas Christianity with its restrictions ends by boring him unless and until his general mental condition by individual genius or generations of transmitted culture reaches the average level of the European. As instances of the former might mention some 10 or dozens individuals living at the present time who are priestly and deacons of Christianity in Africa, while, for example, of permanently rooted Christianity as a result of inheritance, it is only necessary to point to the thousands of really good Negro men and women to be found in the United States and the British West Indies. So that explains to a Caribbean people why we have Haitians. They Pentecostal Christians, stronghold. Brother used to come in our live stream. We haven't seen him in a while. He's Haitian. We talk on the phone all the time, and I'm not gonna mention his name because I don't want nobody to point him out. But he used to tell me all the time on the phone, his family, they are Christians. This is why, right? So Jamaicans, you got a lot of Jamaicans who Christians, strong Christians, very strong Christians, right? Unrecognizable Christianity, but still Christians, right? Okay. As instances of the former, one might mention some 10 or dozen individuals living in present time who are priestly and deacons and Christians in Africa, while, for example, permanently rooted in Christianity as a result of inheritance is often necessary to point to the thousands of really good Negro men and women to be found in the United States, and the British West Indies. See that? So he calls them what? Really good Negro men and women. Really good Negro men and women that's Christians. That's why it's hard to break that Christian bond, Christian stronghold, right? All right, let's go back. Portugal, however, never attempted to rule the Kingdom of Congo till a few years ago. So after centuries' work, a Ba-Congo fell away from Christianity, and another 100 years had absolutely relapsed into heathenism and expelled all the priests. The Jesuit priests also accompanied Portuguese conquerors to the Zambezi and the southeast of Africa. Southeast of Africa would be what? Zimbabwe? Right. Here they met with relatively little success, though they left their traces on Zambezia in the most marked manner by founding a settlement high in the Zambezi and even establishing stations beyond the little-known Batoka country, where their presence is attested to this day by the groves of fruit trees which they introduce. Tete, the modern capital of Portuguese Zambezia, also began as a missionary station. Elsewhere in Portugal, East Africa, and priests had very little success as Mohammedanism had already got a hold. There goes it again. Indeed, the first missionary explorers of Zambezia who visited the court of kings of Motapa was martyred there at the instigation of the Arabs. Portuguese priests also traveled over Abyssinia during 2 centuries after Portuguese discovery of the country at the end of the 15th century. Christian Abyssinia, the most probable origin of the myth of the king of Prester John, attracted a good deal of attention from Portugal since she commenced her exploitation of the outerwear, but the Portuguese priests were quite unsuccessful in converting the Abyssinians from their debased form of what? Greek Christianity. So the Abyssinia or Ethiopian Orthodox Ethiopians have to this day a Greek, not the Roman. They held to the original Greek Christianity. So they go back to the Maccabean period of their Christian faith. The Maccabean period predated the birth of the Messiah. So Christianity didn't start. That's the point I want you to take home. Christianity didn't start with Jesus Christ. Let me back up. Christianity started with Jesus Christ, but it didn't start with Yahshua the Messiah. It started with the Greek Philip of Macedonia period and Antiochus. Okay. They didn't put the label Christianity on until after the Messiah came to make it favorable to those Hebrews who were followers of Yahshua the Messiah. That's how they got it into the psyche of the people in Africa. Okay, now, so they had the Greek Christianity said the form of Greek Christianity to the Roman Catholic Church, and after bitter quarrels with the native clergy, these missionaries had been either killed or expelled from the country by 1633. See, because what it is that the Abyssinians realized that, oh, y'all got a whole nother version of this Greek Christianity. That's what they did, right? Okay, let's continue. I'm almost finished for today. I'm not going to go 5 hours a day. But the Portuguese priests were quite unsuccessful in converting the Abyssinians from their debased form of Greek Christianity to the Roman Catholic Church, and after bitter quarrels with native clergy, these missionaries had been either killed or expelled from the country in 1633. So, because of that, here's what happens. Let's go further. Spanish, Portuguese, and Italian priests vainly attempted at different times to convert the Moors of North Africa. Why? Because they were indoctrinated with Islam. They call it Mohammedanism. Finding this a hopeless task, they directed their efforts towards relieving the suffering and unfortunate Christian captives of barbaric pirates, and practically continued their work down to the French occupation of Algeria. Right? So there goes your French. The Protestant people did little in the way of missionary work in Africa till quite the end of the 18th century, though the good Huguenots who went out of South Africa 100 years before endeavored somewhat to the surprise of the Dutch. There you go, you're Dutch. So you got the Dutch here, right? You got the French mentioned here, right? All right, French, Dutch, right? To the treat that the Hottentots, as fellow men fitted for baptism, and the Merovingians, attracted by the Hottentots, began evangelizing work in where the Cape of Good Hope in 1732. Then he said Wesleyan missionaries, right? Wesleyan missionaries work was begun in Sierra Leone, coincidentally with the establishment of that place as a settlement for freed slaves in 1787. So, I have a coworker who's from Liberia, right? I was trying to tell him that they were indoctrinated with Roman Christianity. They don't believe that. They just think, they don't know why they Christian. Well, we tell you why. Okay, now we're reading why. It says here, the Protestant people did little in the way of missionary work in Africa till the quite end of the 18th century. Okay, I read that part there. Wesleyan missionary work began in Sierra Leone, coincidentally with the establishment of that place as a settlement for free slaves in 1787. The London Missionary Society was founded in 1795 and the Edinburgh Missionary Society in 1796. The Glasgow Missionary Society soon afterwards. By the end of the 18th century, these three bodies had sent out missionaries to Sierra Leone and the adjoining Sioux country. In 1821, the Glasgow Missionary Society sent the first Presbyterian missionaries to South Africa. The Church Missionary Society was founded in 1799. It sent missionaries to Sierra Leone and after a long interval extended its operations to Lagos, Nigeria, right? The Niger Delta, where it is still the leading Christian mission. Y'all got Roman religion and don't know it. That's why your comprehension of the biblical text is tainted and watered down by the Greek hijacked Christianity of the Roman religion.
Am I right?
That's right.
Let me see if I can find something for you real quick. Oh, let's see. Will I be able to find it here? Let's see. I'm trying to find something real quick. Okay, I got to go to my footnotes. I'm looking at my book. Okay. I need another reference. Okay, let's scratch that. Okay, never mind. I was going to show you from one of the books of the Inquisition. Okay, let's go back to the book at hand. Okay. So we see all this here, right? We're showing you how that the colonizers brought Christianity. That's why we have such strongholds of the Roman religion. That's what I wanted to say. The Roman religion. I wanted to show you. I want to say it's Africa being. Hold on for a second. Let me see if I can. This is bothering me. Okay, let's see. Hold on. Let's see if I can find it here. Just bear with me a second here. I might have the wrong book. Okay, just bear with me a second here. I'm almost there. This is not the book. Okay, I didn't think it was America being an accurate description. It's one of the Inquisitions. It's the one I'm thinking of specifically. Let's try this here real quick. I'm almost finished, so no worries. Let's see. Maybe this might be it here. Okay, let's see. Okay, so this is okay, this is America being an accurate description. This is page 441. It says the natives anciently went clothed in frock without sleeves, as wide on the top as the bottom. This is talking about in this is in Peru, I think. Peru, yeah. They were hard also to be brought to receive the Roman religion, so that most of them would not suffer themselves to be baptized till they lay a dying. Okay. That's talking about the Roman religion, but the exact quote that I'm looking for, I don't think it's in this book. Roman religion. Okay. I'm not going to prolong the lesson while I look for this. I'll find it when I go offline. What I'm looking for, but oh wow. Okay. Let's go back to let's try to wrap this baby up here for today. Let's see. What time is it? Give me 5 minutes. Okay. All right. So we read that part there. The Church Missionary Society introduced to us men of the stamp of Kraft and Redmond. Dr. Ludwig Kraft is justly a great name in African exploitation, African philosophy, and African Christianity. Dispatched by Church Missionary Society to prospect Abyssinia in 1840, he was obliged to decide after disappointing experiences that there was no field there for Protestant Christianity, and therefore directed his steps to the Zanzibar coast. Being a tactful man and meeting with kindness at the hands of Said, right, he established himself at Mombasa, and there founded the work of the Church Missionary Society, which endures and prospers to this day. Dr. Kraft will also be referred to in the chapter of Explorers. The Church Missionary Society educated first Protestant Negro bishop in person of Samuel Crowther of the Niger, or Nigger. its work met with some success on the west coast of Africa as regards a number of adherents. But like most Christian missions, it has not achieved rapid progress in more or less Mohammedanism East Africa. The mission stands out conspicuous for the magnificent philosophical work done by the agents of Africa, especially notable among whom have been Dr. S.W. Cole, Mr. Reinhardt, and Reverend James Frederick Schoen, Bishop Crowther, Kraft, Redmond, and J.T. Lass. Okay, that's good. All right, so this goes on and on. It's showing you as you go on that the evangelical effort continue, right? Okay. So in closing, right? It's 12. I said 5 minutes. Okay. In closing, you should see by now, right, that Christianity never was. I think of Geographic, that might have been the book that I was thinking about. That said Christianity, that Judaism is said in the book, was the religion let me see, hold a second. Is it Atlas Geographus? Let's see, hold on. I think this might be the one. Hold on for a second. Okay. Okay, here it is. This is page 39. Good. Very good. Very good. So this is Atlas Geographus, or a complete system of geographical ancients and modern for Africa, published in 1711. He says, let's blow this up here. I have it highlighted. It says, Leo says there are other kingdoms on the south frontiers of the country which are inhabited by rich, industrious, and just sort of people. Judaism was the religion of the ancient Africans for a long time and succeeded by Christianity, right? But what is that? Mohammedanism prevailed in the 208th year of the Hijra, when all the Yahudim Christians and processors of the African religion that could be found were put to death. Yet in the process of time, their intestine quarrels made them neglect Mohammedan law and revolted from the Caliph of Baghdad, for which they were severely punished by the Mohammedan caliphs, who caused all their books to be burnt on the suspicion that the knowledge of the arts and sciences prompted them to condemn Mohammedan law. The Africans on the coast are still very gross idolaters. Okay, so that's that there. Okay. I wonder if that other quote I was looking for is in here. Okay, let's see. We'll be going all day looking for that in here. I have in my book, I have a shortcut to all of my quotes that I was going to read from. But rather than continue this going forward, that's all I have for today. Prayerfully, you all got something out of that. So from just viewing this, you should know by now that Europeans have influence to this very day. The names of the deity, the theology of the deity, the rapture, all that has a part to do with that, because that's part of the doctrine of the Gentiles. It's not a doctrine, right? And when you think about that, why would the Most High send his son to take Christians who are lawless, not following the Most High's law, statutes, commandments? Why would he privilege them because they believe in Jesus to take them off the earth back to heaven, while the world's being judged because they rejected Jesus and the doctrine of Christianity? That is the craziest thing that anybody ever could think. To think that you're going to be taken from this earth because you put your faith in Jesus, as Corey Minor says. You're going to go to heaven. And that's the extent of the belief system. So Christianity has fully, right, hijacked and influenced the spirituality of the Hebrews, of the African people, of the whole world. And I close with this. Revelation says Satan deceived the whole world. I'll give you the reference real quick. So that's Revelation 12:9. It says, reads on this wise: and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So he deceived the whole world. So how did Satan, the accuser, Halel, which was transliterated Lucifer, but his name was Halel, how did he deceive the whole world? He deceived the whole world by making the world believe these lies. That you're going to be raptured up in heaven. That when you die, your loved one is up in heaven looking down, smiling. All of that foolishness, buffoonery that has befallen our people. And so we know for a fact that what we got came to us from the Gentiles that Paul evangelized. I'm going to take a quick look at the comment board, see if I see anybody that has any comments. Okay. Shabbat shalom, Smitty. Good to see you, my brother. Let's see, who's that? Kima. Oh, Kima having a conversation with I is our righteousness. Saturdays and Sundays and Fridays are Esau Sabbaths. Our righteousness. Don't waste your energy with One West Camp, One West Division's doctrine, Esau being a white man, and all of these lunar Sabbaths and days and stuff like that. We know the 7th day happens to be on what the world calendar day, Saturday. Whether you agree to that or not, that's your choice to disagree with that. But this doesn't change the fact that the days are numbered 1 through 7. Right? Sabi, right, is the 7th day. Right? So there is a period from sun to sun, from sundown to sundown, which constitutes a day. So if you don't agree with that, then hey, that's your camp doctrine. I can't change that if that's where you are. We don't utilize, some people we speak that and we use the pagan names for the days, which we probably shouldn't. But in the world that we live in now, that's where people are in their comprehension. 7th day, 1st day, that kind of thing goes over some people's head. So I disagree with you 1,000% on your statement. The 7th day is always going to be the 7th day. I don't know if you believe in rotating Sabbaths and all of that, but that's debunked. Okay. Keep on having a conversation with Brother Dookie Dallas. All right, let's see. Okay, I'm looking. Okay. Sound like unedited truth. Okay. Praise Yah. Hallelujah. He says, okay. Thanks for listening. He said, I love you all. I'm done, brother and sister. So look, I praise the Most High for those of you that hung to the stream to this point. Praise the Most High for all those that are keepers of the covenant of Yah, those participated in the Day of Atonement, the Memorial of Trumpets, and coming up the first day of Sukkah. And some people are going away. This is not my year to have a lot of extra time because I left when I got injured with a high credit card because I was living off my credit cards because I was out on the injury. This is right after the pandemic. So I accumulated some debt. So my focus right now is just knocking those debts out. And then freedom is coming in 2026. Yah will. And I'll be able to have a lot more extra free time to do some things, right? And when I get the free time, my books will be published. I'll probably publish three books at the same time. And at the same time, we'll be free to travel. So, so my brother, I think he posted it again. So let me ask you, before I close here, who is Esau? Aya, who is Esau? And what is your proof of that? And please don't tell me that there's two manners of people, two different types of people, white and black, because that don't fly. Okay. So, Father, we thank and praise you for those that join us on this live stream, those who come later, those that keep us in the covenant of Yah. We pray that the peace of Yah passes all comprehension, keep our hearts and minds through Yahshua the Messiah. Until we meet again, shalom, shalom, shalom. Sons and daughters of the covenant. Sons and daughters of the covenant. Sons and daughters of the covenant. Sons covenant. Sons and daughters of the 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 covenant.